And yeah, we've got our UI all screwed up as I expected, but so touch attempts is getting set to 1. It's getting set to 2. And let's go ahead and end the match. And let's see what stats we've actually got reported. Accuracy is 15. Ball touches are low. Touch attempts are now much greater. Alright. Win-loss is 50%. And we won the game. And we won because we were the second player in the list or whatever, and all that crap. So basically, when we're playing locally, our users are going to be all sorts of fucked up with our current stuff. So what I want to do is I want to go to the player controller. And what was this? What did this used to be? This was like a UUID. So what I want to do is if basically we're in the editor. Let me see, do I have that? Like I have editor utils. I mean, I can basically just set if editor. Do this is the compile flag. What the fuck? No, I searched for in editor. And why are these all... How does this match in editor? Like, there is no in editor in this shit anywhere. Like, oh, it's inside of macros? Is that what this thing is pissed about? That's just stupid. Alright, well, we'll just do that so when we're playing outside of the editor, we'll have things that work. Why don't we have a global util also here for use machine ID, use master ID. So I can do some of this stat stuff without hating my life too horribly. Alright, so we can go to the game mode. There's gotta be a fucking CR here. Okay, so I can at least boot this thing up and force my local editor to use the machine ID, which will allow multiple users and do that sort of stuff. So it should work. So let's rebuild everything. Let's get that going on. So once we have all these stats, and I just want to double check that everything actually works with them, we need to actually go make these screens work in the game. That's what I need to do. I've got it designed out. I now have the data for it. Now I'll need to build the screens and then get the queries to get the information. So for high score tables, what do we actually have right now? Like, I've got get interval stat leaderboard. So we have stat context, stat names, top number, and interval ID, and all this sort of stuff. But that's not exactly what I want, is it? Like, what I want is... like, this is going through every interval ID, every stat context, every stat name that we want. And for every one of these, it's going to say, grab this and this. For the account ID, wait. So get stat leaderboard for stat name. So it's for every stat, we have a leaderboard based on every stat that's passed in. So what we actually want is something different. We want in our stats history, we're going to want account ID, stat context, interval ID, stat name. We're actually going to want to sort by these initial ones, and then we want to fetch all the rest of them. So kind of my call is kind of trash. Like, it's not really what I want because it's grabbing just the single stat. Whereas what we've got mocked up here has got, you know, like if we have a leaderboard, it's got stuff, but, you know, like if you're judging by score, you want also that user's basic stuff. So I could get a leaderboard based on it and then fetch the rest of their stats for that interval. I'm gonna have to do this. All right, well, I want to just do a little bit more testing to make sure that we're getting our stats. But sounds like I want a little bit more for this get stat leaderboard, because we got the leaderboard. That's good, which is going to give us all those stats, but then we want extra stats on those users. So it's fine, I think, to select the leaderboard. And then we grab all the specifics out of there for every one of those users. So it's like, get leaderboard. Okay, cool. Now get all the stats alongside those users. So let's go beat the hell out of a bot and see what our accuracy looks like. You went and just owned gold on us. Great, great job. All right. So let's take a look at our record. Let's see. We have a new account because of this stuff. So our accuracy is 64%. Our win-loss is 100. And looks like we all worked. Touch assists, losses in a row. Score 66. So we had 7 ball touches, 9 player touches. We did not score, but we won, which is why we got a score of 66 instead of a higher score. Alright, that works for me. Actually, let's go change this just so, because I'm thinking about when Adam plays this. He'll probably just be booting stuff up in the editor, and if he doesn't see his stats go up, he's going to be pretty damn confused. Okay, so for these stat leaderboards, so we have stat names, stat context, and all this stuff. So how do we want this? We want all the extra stats on those users that we pull out, or do we want specific stats about those users? I think it's specific stats. So what we're going to want here is a list of strings for extra stats. Extra stats to pull in. And let's see what that user stat leaderboard actually looks like. So it's got stat context, stat names, stat values. So it's got these user leaderboard stats, which are just strings to longs. So if we have extra stats, we can just chuck them right in there and they'll work just fine. So extra stats should be enough. Failed to copy file. That's fine. We'll just we'll do that when we get there. Because right now it's building, so that's why it's failing to copy a file. Okay, so get result leaderboard? No, it's going to be get stat leaderboard. So we're actually selecting everything from these stats for the specific stat value. I mean, we could just fetch all the stats. It's not a bad plan. So we've got all the stats in these like cache leaderboard answers. What we could do is fetch all the rest of them, right? So what this query is going to look like, so it's going to be like we want all the unique account IDs. Okay, so it's gonna be let's take a look at this. For user stat history tables, basically it's gonna be stat context equals question mark and interval context, interval ID equals question mark, interval context equals question mark, interval ID equals question mark. So context, interval, context, ID, and so this will be or here, and it's going to be the And then we've got 1, 2, 3. And it's going to be the stat context, the interval context, and the interval ID. Okay, so we'll fetch all this stuff. And otherwise, we are going to add this in here. So we will add every single stat so it's always available for that user in these cache leaderboards. There we go. So our leaderboard stuff, I guess we do not need an extra stat thing because it doesn't matter. We're just going to go ahead and return these things. So where do we call get stat leaderboard? Reload cache. We call it inside of this guy. And we have extra stats. This is include users and include self. So for this, we actually don't want the extra stat name, do we? We want all the stats on that user for the extra stats. So stat name needs to go here. So we'll fetch all the stats for everybody, and that'll work. Just straight up stat context, interval ID, all of that. It's not going to be cached. So let's go through. We're going to go through every value and remove the account IDs. It's a lot of stats. And it's okay, it's not horrifying. It's like, how many stats are we tracking per person? We'll see how it is. I can always try to go optimize this stuff later. It's going to be 50 times 30. when you're dealing with all these numbers, shit gets out of hand real fast. It's like, oh yeah, this happens 20 times. Over 50 different stats for 50 different users for 6 different intervals. Can I just serve a HTML file? So we'll fetch all the stats and we'll see how it happens. We'll see how it works. And we can always do a subset of the stats, like only grab a few. But this should be fine. We'll try it. And I will be right back. Alright, well, we gotta build everything, of course, because that's just how it always works. Alright, so let's just boot it up. Make sure I didn't do anything stupid over the last 5 minutes, which regrettably is usually what happens. So we'll just make sure it works. Alright, let's go scrub our database. Because I can. And let's make sure that it works. Let's count it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Accuracy is 44. Touch 18. 1 win, 1 win in a row. Win-loss record 100. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. One loss is 50, wins in a row 0, 1 win, 1 loss, 1 goal. Own goal? Own goal anywhere? Where's our own goal? Why do we not have an own goal? Let's go take a look at that. Welcome, Adam. Yeah, I'm working on all that stuff. The win-loss ratio and the accuracy and all the rest took a bit of finagling to get it to... Because win-loss is different from accuracy, and in that we take 2 stats, wins and matches played, and we figure that out. Accuracy is kind of the same as that, but then we got score, which is an aggregate, which requires game data. So like the... we've got this data file in Perforce, which this is the values for all the different things. And this is dynamic game data, so we can, change the values for all the score stuff based on, any time. It's not going to affect the scores in the database that exist. We would have to go scrub those scores, but we could at least tune it and be like, wins are too much, and we wouldn't have to push an update for that. But it wouldn't like go nerf somebody's score who's already there. They would just earn less later. And I figure we can go back and like reset scores and do all sorts of shit and just not worry about it too much. So why aren't we doing own goals? Like we have own goals here with OG. Am I just... It must be a 0? Well, let me go take a look at the, if this is actually getting called. Alright, so own goals are there. So let me see if it's actually getting set. Okay, own goals are there, so the other guy must have got credit for it because he touched it fast enough, so own goals is working. For the accuracy stat, I was kind of going over that. There's actually some problems with the accuracy stat in terms of reporting, such as we can't send a network message every single time that the user actually attacks. So I've got like this touch attempts unreliable message that we send up there. So touch attempts are kind of nebulous and kind of not super amazingly great in terms of the reliability. They're going to be as close as we can get to accurate, but there's going to be some issues with it. So accuracy is not going to be perfect regardless, but it should be pretty close. But I figure slides, like I was like, yeah, people do slides anyway just because it looks cool and because you might avoid an attack. But I figure we'll just throw it in there for now because right now your accuracy is based on the number of touches. So your accuracy can go over 100%. And so if you hit stuff all the time, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm not too kind of thinking about it. It looks like the accuracy stat will probably be something around a I mean, I could just go ahead and play a game and see what my accuracy is going to be against a whole bunch of bots. You know, if I'm just like smashing the shit out of them. I figure it'll be like laser tag where your accuracy is just garbage. So if it's like, oh, I got 10% accuracy, I'm actually pretty good at this. So let's see what we get with this. So my accuracy is 37%. So even though I was kind of spamming it all over the place and doing some random slides and shit, it didn't lower my accuracy too much. It's still like 37%. So it's not too bad. So I think it'll work. And I think the reason you're saying is you're trying to penalize the players from dash smashing all the time, and stats, I don't know. Stats is probably not the right place to really nerf that, but good enough to give people a little bit of a suggestion to be like, hey, your accuracy sucks. Alright, so that's working. I need to actually start on the screens, I guess. Actually be a decent idea to just actually check in what I got so far. Let's get that going. So it looks like we got 3 screens we need to make. Actually 4 screens. Stats menu, leaderboards, user profile, stats history. Let's actually just go through some of this. Like this isn't used. This isn't used. That's not used either. This is used, but there's nothing in it, so it really doesn't matter. Yeah, there's this. Alright, we can probably just trash all this stuff then. And the header, credit screen header, I mean, probably just get rid of everything there. Trying to pare down a it's not the best one to copy. Should probably copy something else to get a start on it. Maybe the pause screen? Is that too crazy? No, it's pretty simple. Actually, I should start with the base of probably the multiplayer main menu. Yeah, that one's pretty simple. So I'll just do that. And we've got the, like, you can't actually look at this stuff unless you're logged in here, so. Alright. Hello, Warhead 540. I'm working on screens for stats. So make sure I got this working properly. Platform hook is there. Like we've got these silhouettes, but we don't need those. BG plates, we probably don't want that. Let's snag that back button off of here. We can at least do that. Alright, so that should work. Stat screen background, all that stuff. Alright, so let's go add that to our index, and let's add it to our globals. Biggest regret of the trip is the head. It's true. Alright, so we'll get that rolling along. Alright, so what we need to do is we need to add another button here for stats. The other thing we could do is we could have it come off the multiplayer menu as opposed to the main menu. Kind of keep the main menu as it is. Well, let's throw it on the main menu just to start with, and it's actually real easy to move it in if we don't want it, so. Screens, main menu. Like how the credits button doesn't exist anymore, it's the fucking about button that says credits. So we got our stats button. Does the single player button even exist? Like, is this anything? Like, the single player button is the fucking practice button. Alright, well, let's start renaming this crap so it's not just so stupid here. And this should be credits button. So let's remove this guy. Let's remove the news button. Let's turn this into credits button. So we got settings. Credits button, and where is the single player button? On single player click, this needs to be on practice. Alright, so we've got our main menu, so we have our practice button, our stats, our practice. How come practice actually has a width defined and the other ones don't? Let's take a look. Plankton has just subscribed for 3 months. What? Well, thank you, sir. Your support has granted you the opportunity to troll Adam in chat with all the ambient upset means that you feel like. You found a cool new waterproof vest. Yeah, it was just walking around San Francisco. I was like, hey, here's a nice hat. Just happened to be on this Australian guy. But he didn't seem to notice when I stole it from him. Finders keepers. But yeah, we're just, I'm working on the user stats. I don't know if you've seen any of that, any of the mock-ups, but Adam provided me with kind of we've got a user profile that we'll have, we've got the stats, like the stats exist right now. I've got them in the database getting tracked. So like I've got my accuracy and, you know, wins and losses in a row and all that. And we'll also have leaderboards for different types, and we'll have different types of leaderboards. Hopefully, like overall, then who's like the best at scoring, and who's the best at punching people in the face, and who's like got the biggest win streak. One interesting thing I've got in there is the wins in a row. I've got it right now so that if you, for the intervals, so like if it's a weekly wins in a row streak, and you win 5 in a row, it's gonna show you as like on the leaderboard of like you have won 5 in a row, you're at the top. But as soon as you lose a game, it sets your wins in a row back to 0. So it'll be kind of interesting because people will have like 5 wins in a row, be top of the leaderboard, and then they lose, and then they're at the bottom of the leaderboard again. So I was thinking, I was like, you know, I'm just going to leave that in. That's kind of an interesting sort of leaderboard where as soon as anybody loses, they get kicked from the top and they're at the bottom again. So it'd be like, I've got a perfect win rate going right now. If I lose, then I'm screwed. But as soon as somebody like gets one better than you, you're like, son of a bitch, I got to win the next match. I don't know, we'll see. Everybody will be at 0. That's when you get a separate Twitch account just for like your Smurf playing. So with our buttons right now, we could push the buttons down. Actually, I was going to check on that credits, this practice button width. I want to take it out and see if it screws anything up. Doesn't look like it. Looks like it still works, so I'll just do that. How come height isn't doing, like, yeah, maybe I can take this height out too. Yeah, it looks like it's working. Alright, so height's out, we don't need that. So this will be 12, 18, 24, See how it looks in the game. See if we're covering something up. Yeah. Very good, sir. Yeah, everybody's had to go like a couple weeks here without Adam streaming. So everybody's in withdrawals. So you'll have to make do with my swearing and horribly boring database work. It's like the little thumbnail for the UI. It looks like some nature discovery show with like a camera pointed at a fat sack, but it's an actual ball. It's like somebody got this horribly wrong. Alright, so if I move this, I basically need to move this next update in 7 days needs to be moved down.